Hi, gang. It's Patrick.
And Kale.
Coming up on today's episode, guest host Kale and I slide into Kuzcotopia in our Take-Two review of The Emperor's New Groove. As always, we discuss the latest Disney news, and we close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Kale, wrong lever, English.
Patrick, probable, Kozaki.
Probable. Great. I don't know where you came up with that word, but...
Well, probable Kozaki.
Got it. You're more clever than most people.
Yeah, there was way more thought put into mine than there was to yours.
I never think about anything ever, so...
No.
Oh, dear. Well, welcome to Gays Do the D. Kale, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
I'm moderately excited by it, so I'm setting the bar low.
Right. Yeah.
So, Kale, you've actually been on Gays Do the D. We were promoting our Run Distanced efforts on Instagram.
Yes, that's right. I have been. It was promoting one of our live trivia nights, I believe, and then the Run Distanced for the Princess Run.
I believe so. That sounds correct. I have no memory whatsoever.
I know. We've done so many of them at this point. They all like run together. We've done 2.
We've done so many. A total of 2.
Right.
Oh dear. But you have never guest hosted an episode of Gays Do the D, so now is when you actually become famous.
This is true. I knew this was going to happen to me one day. I knew that day I accidentally bumped into that child at the sunglass stand in Mouse Gears, and that child was you.
Wow. Offensive, but you're in the right place for that, though. That's great. But Kale, in actuality, you are super famous for being 1/3 of the Steamboat Willies on Instagram.
That's correct. Super famous. There are about 4,000 people who know I exist, who know that we exist. Probably 50 of those people we've met in real life, maybe. And then, you know, the occasional person that follows us out of obligation, my sister, my mom, Mark's mom, Roger's sister. Yeah. Right. But we actually have you guys to kind of thank for that, because before there was the official nickname for Tweedledees, you guys often referred to us 3 as the Atlanta D's.
It's true.
And so we sort of did get bunched in together on Instagram before starting the Steamboat Willies.
So in reality, you're not friends at all.
I didn't even meet them until no, but we actually owe some of our fame to you.
Well, you can send a check to my house. I'll give you the address later on.
Yeah, okay. I'll send you a check as soon as we get a check. The Steamboat Willies may have been the most expensive venture of our life.
I just now realize that I sound like I'm 100 years old with writing checks. Who writes a check anymore?
Right. Is a check like Venmo?
It's paper Venmo, yeah. For all the kids listening at home. Well, Kale, can you unpack the Steamboat Willies a little bit for our listeners at home? Who are the Steamboat Willies?
So the Steamboat Willies are myself, Mark, and Roger. And we've been friends for about 4 years now. From the moment we met, which was at a party I was brought to by a mutual friend, we immediately hit it off. Originally, I actually did not realize that they were diehard fans of Disney. And then I guess after the second or third time I had gone to hang out at their apartment for RuPaul's Drag Race viewing night, I was getting a alcoholic beverage out of the fridge, as one does, and saw a bunch of, pictures of them at Walt Disney World. And that was kind of when the conversation started. And, I was, oh my gosh, you guys are Disney fans. I'm a huge Disney fan. And then they were like, how often do you go? And I was like, well, never. And so from that point, it really was this friendship that, it was an immediate connection. even to this day, it takes very little work. There's no two people that make me laugh on the face of the planet like me and myself. And then just the fact that they get to join in with it. You know what I mean?
I do. And actually, there was one lie in what you just said, in that if anyone knows you, to be your friend is a lot of work, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You might be right. The fact that it's really easy for me, that might be...
They're doing the heavy lifting for sure.
We're having that conversation tonight, the three of us, because I have never thought about that. Like, what if I am? What if they're listening to this right now, rolling their eyes so hard? Mark can see his brain. Like, I know it.
Amazing. No, in actuality, it's if you're not following at the Steamboat Willies on Instagram, you're doing it wrong. It's an absolute delight. It's basically just watching three friends be goofy together and loving Disney together and watching movies together, and that's something I feel like we need right now in the world, is just some joy, right?
There's no, I don't think that there's a more supportive community on Instagram than the Disney community. And so it just, it was overwhelming with happiness and joy. And that was sort of why we decided to, which it was originally my idea, the Steamboat Willies account. And then I was told by Mark and Roger, well, if you do this, this is your responsibility. And then cut to Mark, right? Kind of having to take over because I didn't keep up my end of the bargain. But yeah. And so it started off that was always the goal, right? To spread friendship, meet new and incredible people, which we absolutely have. And then, just positivity to no end. And then I would say shortly after we started it, actually within a year, that was when the pandemic happened. And it seemed even more important then to sort of spread positivity. And I will say there was about 2 months where I didn't even see Mark and Roger, and it was miserable. I don't ever want to go through that again. But seemingly when I met them, they didn't seem like they minded at all. Because I was like, oh, this was horrible. And I think there was a big silence, and then it was like, same. So
yeah, that tracks for sure.
I'm kidding. They cried the first time I walked back in the door.
Well, enough about Mark and Roger. You're on the episode today, Kale.
That's right. It's me.
It's you. It's all about you today. As per usual, if we have a guest on the show, we have to get a little Disney lesson from you. So we want to know what your history with Disney is. Did you grow up with Disney? Are you a newer Disney fan? Talk to us about that.
So as early as I can remember, me and my sister, Holly, which you've actually met Holly the very same day that I met you.
I did indeed. And her beautiful children as well.
The best children ever. I really lucked out in the uncle department. But so I always kind of, I feel bad for the generation that's sort of a little bit younger than us, because do you remember there was a time in the late 80s, early 90s where they were just releasing every Disney movie on VHS. So there's a sort of group of us at a certain age that got to watch every single Disney movie because it had been released. It wasn't until shortly after that they started kind of doing the vault rollout, to where depending on how old you were, you might have even missed being able to having the opportunity to see a movie that had been out, 20, 30 years prior. But Holly and I were at that like perfect age, and it was the perfect time where, I can literally see it in my mind on a shelf, all those plastic Disney VHS cases. And we always were obsessed. And I do know that there was one Walt Disney World trip taken. I think I was like less than a year old. And I was obsessed with Mickey Mouse as a child. And I remember my mom always used to tell this story of how the entire time that we were at Walt Disney World, I just kept going, Mickey Mouse, make it like I wanted to meet Mickey Mouse. And so she had made it this big grand thing, right? Like it was going to be the last thing we did because Kale needed to meet Mickey Mouse. And she said they walked into the room to meet Mickey Mouse, and I lost it. Like, was terrified. Like, he's absolutely not supposed to be that big. And which also checks out. That's still my personality to this day. And so, but yeah, so I had actually never gone to Walt Disney World having memories of it. So I met the boys, the Steamboat Willies, Mark and Roger. You know, it had always sort of been this highly coveted thing, because my sister did get many opportunities to go to Disney World growing up. You know, she had a lot of friends that would go. I think she even went for like her high school graduation, took like a road trip there with a friend. And I had like a couple opportunities to go that never quite went through, and always wanted to. I mean, it had been a dream. And so, like, you know, when you're young and you're dating and you ask like questions on a first date, and you know, if there's any place in the world you could go, where would you go? And I would always say, well, Walt Disney World. And then the guy always trying to, you know, be sweet as, oh, I'll take you to Walt Disney World. And I would kind of do this like, no thanks, because I knew that it needed to be special. At that point, I had waited so long to go. I wasn't going to go with what's his face. Do you know what I mean? And so it did. It became this thing where like I had totally built it up in my mind to where it had to be perfect. I had to be there with the right people. And after the boys and I think had been friends for about a year, and they had asked me to go on to this trip this one October. And I remember kind of like looking around and, you know, seeing Mark, seeing Roger, seeing my partner, Steve. And I was like, this is absolutely the group I'm supposed to go with. Like this makes sense and it feels right. And I knew I was going to get emotional, which I very rarely cry, but I knew walking in for the first time I was going to cry. And so I was actually getting ready to go to Europe. Like, I was touring Europe on a singing tour with my chorus. And a couple people had told me, like, go to Disneyland Paris, you know, don't expect Walt Disney World, but it'll still be great. So my plan was I was going to go to Disneyland Paris, see the castle, get like the first Disney park emotions out of my system. And then, so I did that. I absolutely cried at Disneyland Paris, like lost it when I saw the castle. And then also cried on Hyperspace Mountain for very different reasons. And then, which you've ridden a ride with me, so you know it's a experience upon itself.
Yeah, it's the goofy scream, basically.
And so I kind of thought I had gotten it out of my system, like which I know as an adult, that makes me look super spoiled that my first park was Disneyland Paris. But so I came home. We were planning the trip for October, and I, thought I was going to be okay. And then sure enough, I walked through the gates of Magic Kingdom, saw the castle with Mark, Roger, and Steve, and lost it all over again. And and that's a feeling that sort of never goes away. The first time on your trip where you see the castle, and it was perfect. I was there and I saw it for the first time with exactly the right people. It really was this perfect trip, which is funny because every time you do build something up in your head as perfect, it never comes off that way, right? It's never how it works out, but it really did. And I'll always be thankful to the other two Steamboat Willies for that. And then honestly, like, after we had been going for about a year, that was sort of when I got into Run Disney. And that was really thanks to you, because, I don't consider myself a runner because I don't really like to run. I do it out of this mental obligation that I feel like I have. But I really do like Run Disney. I really love meeting, people every time I go, which is actually at this point one. I've done one. There was supposed to be more, but then, But yeah, and we've actually, we have to give credit to Mark, because Mark actually, I do believe, is one of the very first listeners that you guys had, because you guys started in a September, is that right?
Around then, it was fall, for sure. I can't remember the exact date. Adam's better with dates than I am.
Okay, but I remember us, it was shortly after y'all had started, we were taking an October trip, and I believe that he's the one that got all three of us into your podcast. And then we quickly became friends, like with just not Facebook, but Instagram banter and stuff like that. And then you and I met in person,
and all your dreams came true.
That's right. And
everything else has been a disaster after
That's
that.
right.
A disappointment.
But you and I've built a really good friendship, I'd say.
I'd say it's an okay friendship.
Wow. Whoa. Okay.
No. Okay, so moving on, some rapid fire questions for you about Disney. Do you have a favorite Disney movie?
So Little Mermaid. Also, I have to say the one we're talking about today is a close second.
Oh, fair enough. We can disclose what movie we're talking about. They've heard it in the intro already.
Okay. So my second one is Showgirls. I'm just kidding.
Oh, boy.
The Emperor's New Groove. I have to say, when you asked me to do this, you didn't think it was going to be the most professional episode.
No, I knew it was going to be a 3-hour disaster for sure.
Okay.
And to be clear, when I said rapid fire, I did mean 5-minute answers for sure. So you're right on schedule.
Okay, so one would be Little Mermaid, two would be The Emperor's New Groove. A close second, though.
Fantastic. Do you have a favorite Disney song?
I Won't Say I'm in Love from Hercules.
Excellent answer. That's a great answer. Do you have a favorite Disney character?
So I feel like I feel like I have to say Ariel because of The Little Mermaid, but I also really do love Emperor Cusco. I also really love Goofy, and then I really think that Sisu from Raya, she might be my new favorite.
That's a great answer. I feel like Raya and the Last Dragon, I need to sit with it a little bit longer before I can claim any of that is my favorite, but it's going to get there. I have a feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Did you like it, though? It's an awesome movie.
I mean, if you listen to our podcast, which you clearly don't, you would know that I loved it.
I do, but sometimes y'all go in on these movies.
We're not going to lie about it, for sure.
Okay.
Last question. Do you have a favorite Disney ride?
I would have to say Haunted Mansion or Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, everyone says that. Everyone says the Haunted Mansion for sure. Not so much Big Thunder, so you are an original there.
I love Big Thunder Mountain.
It's a great ride. I always forget how much I love that ride until I'm on that ride.
Is that the one we rode together?
Well, we rode several rides together, Kale, if memory serves. But yes, we were on Big Thunder Mountain together, and the scream that you let out is, I think I can still hear it. It's still echoing around the world.
Yeah. So the boys always say, in Home Alone 2, when Marv is getting electrocuted and he's screaming and he gets higher and higher, and then at one point he's a skeleton. They always say that's the journey that my screen takes them on a ride.
That sounds correct for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for disclosing your Diz-tory with us, Kale. We are now going to move on to the rest of the episode. You're no longer very special. You're just a guest host now. But I am going to talk about the two of us just ever so briefly again, because you and I are actually going to host another Instagram Live Trivia Night this Wednesday, April 14th. Of course, we are promoting our Run Distance event since most of the runs have gone virtual this year. Kale and I have been doing some Run Distance events where we are just trying to bring our Run Disney community together virtually.
Yes, and it's been so much fun. We've had so many people experience it with us. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. We've given away some great prizes. We've raised some money for some great charities. It's been a super fun experience. So thank you to everyone who's participated so far. And if you haven't yet, you can join us this coming Wednesday, April 14th, for a trivia night. And we're going to be giving away some prizes and hopefully raising some money for some charities. Next up, Kale, we have a new Patreon member to celebrate. Jamila has become our newest Gaze to the D Patreon member.
Okay, Jamila.
Thank you so much, Jamila. For those of you who don't know, we, of course, do have a Patreon page here for Gaze Do the D. It sort of keeps the lights on here on GDTD. You can find it by going over to gazetothed.com. Click that donate button, and you'll be brought to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you too can become a Patreon member and help keep things running here on Gaze Do the D.
Yes, the content is worth it.
That's right. Kale is referring to our extra episodes that are for Patreon members only, called Gaze to the D Raw and Uncut. We also do Patreon only giveaways. I mean, The reasons are boundless for why you should become a Patreon member.
It's literally silly to not be.
Fair enough. And then next up, Kale, I'm super excited to talk about this. The new trailer for Cruella has come out. Have you seen it?
Yes. Holy cow.
This is what we've been waiting for, right? I feel like the gay community finally went, okay, I trust this movie now.
No, totally. Because I have to say, like, I like Emma Stone. When they announced that she was playing Cruella, I was excited. But even like the sort of like snapshots and stuff that were like sort of, I guess, leaked, like when they were filming in London, a lot of it was just sort of confusing. And then when they came out with the first trailer, I was like, okay, this looks like it has potential. But this last one, man, like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah, the first trailer was a little bit confusing, as you said. I didn't know how to feel about it. I was like, okay, it looks really cool, but I don't know what the story is. It felt really jumbled, and then this new trailer dropped, and I was like, oh, I feel like I finally understand where they're going with this story now.
Because it sort of has a feeling, because we know Cruella as a villain, and from what I can tell of this trailer, it doesn't look like she's going to be the villain so much. It looks like the main villain is going to be Emma Thompson.
Yeah, it was giving me very sort of Selena Kyle turning into Catwoman for the first time vibes.
Oh, perfect way to describe it, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. Emma Thompson looks like she might be the original villain in the movie, and then obviously the reason why Cruella becomes a villain ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows, it might even be one of those situations like Silence of the Lambs where the Cruella we know is not even the real Cruella because Emma Thompson's character like skins Emma Stone and then wears her skin forever. And so we think it's Cruella because she looks like Emma Stone, but in fact it's Emma Thompson. Also, how many Emmas?
That's far too many Emmas for one movie, that's for sure.
I really hope you cut out that part about skinning Emma Stone.
Oh, I'm going to cut a lot of things from this episode, but that is not one of them, for sure.
Oh, no.
I need the world to know exactly how dark your soul is, which is just as dark as Cruella's, I imagine.
I would never hurt a dog, ever. Dogs are the one thing that are safe.
Fantastic. Our friendship, not so much, but dogs, super safe.
Right.
And just as a reminder, Cruella comes out on May 28th this year, both in theaters and on Disney+. And then, of course, before we get into the news, I'm going to talk a whole bunch more because it's time, Kale, for This Week in Disney History. Are you ready to be educated?
I'm so ready.
Fantastic. Here it comes. 5 years ago, Kale, on April 15th, 2016, Jon Favreau's live-action CGI remake of The Jungle Book was released in the United States, starring Neil Sethi, Bill Murray, Ben Kingsley, Idris Elba, Lupita Nyong'o, Scarlett Johansson, Christopher Walken, and Gary Shandling. The film was a sleeper hit that year, earning nearly $1 billion worldwide. It also won the 2017 Academy Award for Achievement in Visual Effects among almost every visual effects award that year in almost every awards program.
Do you like that movie?
I always forget about The Jungle Book, the live-action remake, and it is actually a really beautiful movie. And there are so many celebrities in that movie.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Like a lot of times when I think about the live action remix, that's the one that sort of leaves my mind. But every time that I've seen it, it's a really good watch.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with it. I have to watch it again, I feel like, because I've forgotten about it, like I said. Moving on, 53 years ago, on April 14th, 1968, at the 41st Academy Awards, Walt Disney was awarded an Oscar for Short Subjects Cartoon for Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. Of course, the award was given posthumously as Walt Disney had passed away in December of 1966. Wolfgang Reitherman accepted the award on his behalf. It would be the 22nd and final Academy Award win directly for Walt Disney, which, fun fact, he still holds the record for in both wins and number of nominations.
Very nice. What is this movie?
Well, it was the short, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day.
A short.
It's the one where, like, basically the 100-acre woods gets blown away.
And where does it go?
I guess to the 200-acre woods? I don't know.
It sort of seems like that the Academy had very low standards that year.
How very dare you? Winnie the Pooh is one of the best cartoons that's ever happened.
No, I love Winnie the Pooh. That is the weirdest storyline I've ever heard. The 100-acre woods gets blown away.
Wow, people are going to, if you want to come at Kale, you can find him on Instagram.
No. You'll also be cutting that out.
Not a chance. Moving on, Kale. 60 years ago, on April 13th, 1961, actor, singer, and Broadway star Liz Callaway was born in Chicago. Liz Callaway is mainly known for Broadway, having been in Evita, Cats, Miss Saigon, Sunday in the Park with George, Merrily We Roll Along, and Sunset Boulevard, among many, many other shows. She was also very unknown, ironically, for providing the singing voice for many animated movies and characters, including Princess Jasmine for both The Return of Jafar and Aladdin and the King of Thieves, Kiara in The Lion King 2, and Anya, or Anastasia, in the animated Anastasia, which is now on Disney+. She also added her voice to the chorus for Pocahontas and Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, I love Liz Callaway.
She's fantastic. She, I feel like, is an under-celebrated performer.
Oh, she absolutely is. Do you know that there was a concert that she did in Atlanta a couple years ago where she would talk about she had gone on tour with Barbra Streisand, but obviously she didn't sing for Barbra Streisand. She was literally hired to stand on the stage and sing Barbra Streisand songs so Barbra Streisand could sit in the audience and adjust the lighting and the sound, and that was literally like one of her like first big jobs she got.
That's really cool. How intimidating would that be?
Yeah, and she told that story on stage at the concert, I believe. I wouldn't be intimidated. I would love to stand on stage and sing a Barbra Streisand song where she bossed everybody else around. I feel like I've literally had that dream before.
I feel like you do that at home.
Yeah.
It's just Kale standing on his balcony singing Barbra Streisand songs and the neighborhood really having a fit.
Right. And I know that Barbra Streisand is somewhere bossing somebody around. So it is the same.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, happy birthday, Liz Callaway. And that was this week in Disney history, which means we're moving on from the history to the current times with the news. Kale, are you ready to report on the news?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. You don't really have a choice.
Oh, well, okay, good. I'll get ready.
The happiest place on Earth is about to open its gates again, and there are a few things you should know before planning your next trip to Disneyland. As we mentioned before, the magic will be turned on again this April 30th. As of April 12th, the new theme park reservation system will be live, which must be used to obtain a reservation for a park prior to your visit. Of course, you also will need a theme park ticket for the date of your park reservation, and you must have that valid ticket before you can even get a park reservation. Reservations will be limited, as we mentioned before. Currently, only California residents may access the parks, and for the time being, your group can only contain people from up to 3 households, which is in line with current state guidelines, though I have zero idea how they are enforcing that. As of right now, theme park tickets are still on hold, so from April 12th, 13th, and 14th, only guests who have previously purchased tickets will be able to make park reservations. And on April 15th, tickets will once again go on sale, but again, remember, you have to be a current California resident to gain access into the park. If you have a multi-day ticket, you will need to make a park reservation for each day you plan to visit the parks. If you have a park hopper pass, you will need to make a reservation for the park you plan to start your day in, and then you can go on to the other park starting at 1 p.m. So everyone, I feel like let's all calm down and follow the rules so we don't have to shut down again, because just announced this past week, Avengers Campus within Disney California Adventure will officially open this June 4th. Along with the opening of this new land will be Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure featuring the magnificent Tom Holland. I clearly added that last part. It's not part of the official title. Throughout the land, you'll catch glimpses of Captain America, Black Widow, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and a few more surprises throughout the day. Near the Avengers headquarters, guests will explore the ruins of an ancient sanctum with Doctor Strange, who will train recruits in the ways of the mystic arts and bring the sanctum to life. Be sure to check out the Ancient Sanctum at night as it will glow with mystic energy. And, of course, you can wet your palate or grab a bite at the PIM Test Kitchen, which will serve oversized or undersized foods, including one of my favorite titles, the Pimini Sandwich. You'll also be able to grab a bite at the Shawarma Palace or Terran Treats. A quote from Vice President of Franchise Creative and Marketing for Marvel Studios, Dave Bouchard: Avengers Campus will be a place where fans and guests can finally step into the universe they love and stand alongside some of their favorite heroes. The optimism inherent in Avengers Campus captures the diversity, power, and teamwork these extraordinary characters possess, and now they come together to unite people from all over the world under one guiding principle: we are stronger together. Some super exciting news, Kale.
Yes, I know. Disneyland being closed so long, I know people are so desperate to get back. It's good that we're starting to see signs.
Yeah, it feels like it's been 1,000 years since Disneyland closed. I'm interested, though, in knowing how long it's just going to be California residents that get to visit Disneyland. I feel like it's a good idea to just keep it California residents. It's almost like a gift to the people of California to experience it alone for a while.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. But like you say, everything's moving. It seems like things are moving so fast right now. You know, like every couple weeks, it seems like Walt Disney World is, having new mask requirements that are a little more lenient, things like that. So who knows? By the time it gets around to opening, they might just be like clothing optional. So this year's Run Disney virtual series will honor the timeless majesty of The Lion King this summer from June 1st to August 31st with the Timeless Classic 5K, the Broadway Phenomenon 5K, the reimagined Classic 5K, and a virtual challenge medal. Oh, I just can't wait to be running.
Boy, oh boy, that was a stretch of a joke, but I appreciated it.
Yeah, it was. Do you know of all the animals that lion jokes, they're the hardest to come up with by a long shot.
And you're not lying about that, are you?
Oh,
I'm a genius. What can I say?
That was good. That was good. So have you seen these medals for this virtual series?
Yeah, they're really beautiful. I was almost going to skip the virtual series this year, but then I saw all of the medals, specifically the Broadway one, and I was like, well, now I have to do it.
Yeah, the Broadway one is definitely a standout. And then also the challenge medal, the one that's sort of like baby Simba drawn on the tree, thumb on his forehead. These are really, really great. I also really like that the past couple of years, Lion King's been getting so much attention with like Disney merchandise and in the parks and stuff.
Do you feel like no one paid attention to the Lion King before?
No, but I feel like it did. I feel like specifically like with my niece and nephew Sadie and Grayson, I feel like one of the only reasons why they even saw Lion King was because Holly and I were like, oh, we loved this as kids. I'm glad that they're bringing it, that it's kind of in the forefront again.
Yeah, well, once you introduce Beyonce to something, the whole world explodes around it for sure. Although her performance in The Lion King was the exact opposite of explosive.
Well, I think she did a good job. Here's my thing. If you're going to if you're going to fork out the money for Beyonce, why would you not give Beyonce her own song? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Like, you're not going to have Beyonce sing Shadowland.
Yeah, you're right. The fact that they didn't have her sing that song is like maybe the biggest mistake Disney has ever made in their entire lives.
Entire lives.
I like how we were able to turn a story about Run Disney into a story about Beyonce instead.
But you can literally bring anything back to Beyonce. Like this candle right here that I have lit. It's Dole Whip. It's yellow, lemon, lemonade.
Wow. You know, this is a podcast, right? You can't see anything on a podcast.
Yeah. That's why I said yellow.
Not to be outdone by Disneyland's news of reopening the park and officially opening Avengers Campus, Disney World dropped a few news items this past week as well. First up, originally announced back in 2019 after the D23 Expo, aka 67 years ago, Disney Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro announced that the Disney Genie app still remains within Disney World's plans. For anyone who can't remember back to 2019, the Disney Genie app will provide customized itineraries based on a guest's interests with themed days like a Princess Day, a Thrill Ride Day, or a Food Day, which is every day for me. The app would also be able to fully optimize your day by arranging your plans so you can get the most out of every minute. And you would be able to change your plans at a moment's notice, and the app would recalibrate your day accordingly. No launch date was announced, but Josh D'Amaro did indicate that it was being worked on and that it will roll out in the near future. Next up, earlier this year, we announced that the Jungle Cruise would be getting a host of updates over the next year, and work has already begun. This past week, the head salesman at the end of the attraction was removed. This was in part of the plans to remove racially problematic elements within the ride and to slowly change the story of the Jungle Cruise. According to Imagineers, the updates will happen slowly and in phases and will not result in a ride closure. Moving on, Disney World recently updated its mask mandate. Now, guests are free to remove their masks briefly to take photos. In fact, PhotoPass photographers are now openly encouraging guests to remove their masks if they wish for a photo. It should be noted that this is only for outdoor photos. The only other times you are allowed to remove your mask in public are if you are swimming at one of the resorts or water parks, or if you are actively eating or drinking. But again, if you are actively eating or drinking, you cannot walk around at the same time, which bodes well for me because I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. Speaking of photos, it's now easier than ever to book a Capture Your Moment package in the parks. Now again, if you can't remember anything over a year ago, Capture Your Moment is a reservation made with a Disney PhotoPass photographer for a 20-minute session to capture engagements, anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, or celebrating your 50th cheeseburger spring roll in one day. The photographer will work with you to select the best locations in the park for your magical moment. Each 20-minute session costs $50 and can include up to 8 people. Reservations can be made 60 days in advance, and now same-day reservations will also be available, and you can make those reservations now using the My Disney Experience app. So I actually think that this is a really good idea, and we should take advantage of this. I'm thinking after a Run Disney event, after you've showered and headed back to the parks with your medals from the weekend, it'd be super cool to get a good photo of you wearing the medals.
Oh no, absolutely. Because the pictures that they take of you throughout the run, to me, those are better than when you're done. Because when you're done, you look done.
Yes, absolutely. They take a picture when you've never looked worse in your entire life at the end of the race.
Ever. It's like a requirement to be a PhotoPass photographer. You have to catch them totally off guard.
Yeah, they almost go, wait till they close one eye and open their mouth weirdly.
Right. Wait until they look like they might faint. Also, I'm super excited about the Jungle Cruise updates.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see all the changes they've made. I feel like they haven't really revealed everything they're going to do, so it's going to be a little bit of a surprise along the way.
Mm-hmm. Jungle Cruise, it's so much fun. It's always so funny too. I love the dad jokes and occasionally you get a really, really great skipper. But I don't feel like any of these updates will necessarily change the fact that the ride will be fun, humorous, wet.
Yeah, for sure. I think their new slogan should be the Jungle Cruise, now a little bit less racist.
Absolutely. Still same funny, less racist. Captain Minnie Mouse will take the helm of the newest Disney Cruise Line ship after making her debut on the Disney Wish in 2019.
I mean, it's about time.
It absolutely is. I reached out to Miss Mouse for comment, and she said to me, not even God himself could sink this ship, so I might pass. Typically when people say that, it never ends well. Remember on the Titanic?
Oh, wow. That was a dark joke, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, they had to cast Haunted Mansion somehow.
Wow. This is a real mistake having you on the episode.
Oh my gosh.
No, but in reality, I am surprised that Minnie Mouse has not been on the front of a ship yet.
Yeah, I was actually surprised too. But it's funny because the headline of this story was Captain Minnie Mouse takes the helm, but she actually has done this before. But it's very recent. It's not like in the past where it's always been Mickey. And so good for her.
Good job, Minnie Mouse.
And like they say, the captain always gets down with their ship or something.
What? I don't think that's the same.
I think that's it. Like when everybody's like partying, the captain gets down with them. I promise you, this is how it works.
It doesn't feel right to me, but I do believe you, and I don't know why. Have you ever been on a cruise? A Disney cruise specifically?
I've never been on a cruise of any kind, which I know is people. I'm terrified of everything, but actually, like things with water really don't bother me that much. But I think that I actually am scared of just getting too drunk. I'm being totally serious.
Oh boy, I've also never been on a cruise, but I now want to go on a cruise and watch you get way too drunk with Minnie Mouse.
Yes, and then she gets down with the ship.
Oh boy. Well, hello there, Kale.
Well, hello there, Patrick.
I have to just start right out by saying I am super excited to talk about The Emperor's New Groove with you. It is one of those movies that you and I immediately bonded over.
Yes, absolutely. This is one of my favorite movies from my childhood. And you're right. You and I have bonded over it. I'm wearing my pin, my shirt that you bought me for my birthday.
Oh, I forgot that I bought you something for your birthday.
Yeah, you bought both of these things were for different birthdays. So you bought me more than one birthday gift, actually.
Well, I'm a very generous person, that's for sure. To know me is to be very lucky, I would say.
But this is the movie that bonds the two of us. This is correct.
It's true. It's one of those movies I feel like that many people have not seen and forget are even a Disney movie in the Disney canon. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. The boys had not seen this movie until I insisted that they watch it. I mean, years ago, and they loved it, but they had not seen it at all.
I suppose that's true of most of Disney's non-musicals. I think a lot of people forget about anything if there's no songs in it, really.
I agree for sure. I also think that there was this period of time sort of post-Disney Renaissance that like a lot of movies would sort of get forgotten until they started sort of doing this like CGI, you know? Like I think the only real exception to that is Princess and the Frog because it was very groundbreaking. And so this is definitely a hidden gem of Disney.
Yeah, I would say that. It also doesn't really get much love in the parks either. You don't really see anything Emperor's New Groove related.
It absolutely doesn't.
Which is a travesty, I would say.
It's a travesty. They should literally build a land called Cuscotopia. They should. Do you know how many more people would go to the water park if it was called Cuscotopia?
I was just going to say they should make a water park out of it called Cuscotopia, that's for sure.
Complete with water slide.
We have just given Disney $1 million idea and they're going to steal it from us, I feel like.
They are.
Well, if you haven't figured it out yet, folks, we are talking about, of course, The Emperor's New Groove, which was released in 2000 as the 40th animated film produced by the Walt Disney Feature Animation Studios.
So I think we need to focus on this title for a minute because you and I have been in a bit of a tiff for about a week over the title of this movie.
Yeah, this is the first time we've spoken since we watched the movie.
Right. So you and I actually watched this on the Group Watch feature on Disney Plus. It was the first time I had done it. Was it the first time you had done it?
Yeah, same for me.
What is your feedback on the Group Watch feature on Disney Plus?
It leaves me wanting more, I feel like. I mean, the only feature on it that we really used was like start at the same time.
Right. I have to agree. That, you know, there wasn't really like a chat feature. It was more so, like pressing an emoji here, an emoji there, even though you're very limited to the emojis. Essentially, it was you and I watching the movie on Group Watch and then texting one another the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. I totally understand why they don't want to have a chat. I mean, it just sort of keeps probably children safe from seeing explicit language or, things like that.
Absolutely, for sure. If I had children, which fingers crossed never, but like if I had children, I would say that it would make me feel comfortable. They feel like they're sort of communicating with their friends in a way that, is safe. They can laugh. And even though, children are smarter than we are, so they'll come up with a whole emoji code that means something insane. Like, you know?
I do. I know what you're talking about. But we were saying while we were watching it, like, at least make the emojis. They should at least make the emojis Disney related. They were just very generic, like a heart and a smiley face. It feels like a miss that they're not using like a Mickey Mouse face or a Donald Duck face.
Absolutely. It felt the whole feature in general just felt sort of behind the time. Like it felt very outdated before it even, which I understand too, that I mean, I don't know if that was always the plan to develop this group watch feature, or if this was something that was done considering a lot of us couldn't see one another for a while, because it did come out shortly after lockdown began, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And so maybe it was something that was, you know, sort of not a crazy ton of thought was put into it. It was just simply a way for us to, you know, do something together and feel like part of a group, which is awesome. But, you know, maybe look into it a little more, maybe add a couple things here and there, maybe allow us to like share cocktail recipes while doing it.
There you go. Yeah, I like that idea. So moving back to the Emperor's New Groove, though, you indicated that you and I are in a little bit of a fight right now, an epic battle, I would say, over the title of the Emperor's New Groove. Me being on the side of, I don't really love the title.
Okay, so tell me what you don't like about the title.
The word the word emperors, the word new, and the word groove all together in a string.
But okay. So when we were talking about it the other day, when you said, why is it called the Emperor's New Groove? He doesn't even have like a big dance number. But I think that like groove in the if this movie would have come out in the 70s, I would have been like, you're correct. He doesn't even groove. But in the 90s, groove was a word that you would use as like the rhythm in which you live your life, which is literally what the old man says when he's thrown out the window. I threw off his groove, the rhythm in which he lives his life. And so, and then the Emperor's New is taken from the children's story, The Emperor's New Clothes.
Which this is not that movie, though.
It is not. There actually are no similarities, but
whatsoever.
It is a fun title, The Emperor's New Groove, because when you hear it, you think someone's going to say The Emperor's New Clothes, and then you hear groove, and it's like, I need to see that.
See, that's why I don't like the title, though, because it's confusing. It confuses you right away, where you think you're going to see one story, but it's not about that at all. And I feel like they like threw in the theme of he's trying to get a new groove very haphazardly. It wasn't like a main element of the movie.
Well, he wasn't trying to get you have to pay attention. He wasn't trying to get a new groove. It's called The Emperor's New Groove because on account of now he's a llama. Do you see what I'm saying? I also need to call you out and say that you told me that you thought a better title to this movie was Llama Drama.
100%.
And not in a joking way.
Nope.
You absolutely thought the movie should be called Llama Drama.
Llama Drama or Drama for Your Llama. I think those are genius.
Yeah. Oi.
Okay, well, listen, I stand by my choice. Llama Drama is the new title of The Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
Which is fitting, I feel like, for the history of this movie, actually. It has a long, long history of new titles, new staff members working on the movie. It almost didn't happen for a while. I mean, crazy. Talk about Llama Drama.
No, absolutely. This movie was the perfect example of like developmental hell, which is actually what my doctor referred to my experience with puberty.
Wow. Wowie.
But you can cut that out. But so this movie went through like many reiterations before they finally came to the Emperor's New Groove. It was originally supposed to be a sort of Prince and the Pauper version, but still supposed to have comedic elements where the Prince and the Pauper sort of take places, and then one of them randomly becomes a llama. They always wanted to incorporate a llama.
Yeah, that's fair. They did always want it to be set in South America, basically, like it's sort of an Incan storyline. But it was going to be a very different movie. As you said, it was going to be a little bit like Prince and the Pauper, and an epic musical is what it was supposed to be as well.
Yes. So based off of considering that Elton John got such good feedback and praise off of doing the score for The Lion King, they brought in Sting to actually write the music for what was going to be called Kingdom of the Sun. And so Sting only decided to do this if his wife, who was a documentary filmmaker, Trudy Styler was able to document the process. So, have you ever seen this documentary?
I watched clips of it. Remind me what it's called again.
Sweatbox.
That's right. What a great, speaking of great titles.
Right. The Sweatbox. So you've seen like clips and stuff of it here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same. I have too. I think it's one of those things, apparently, just based off of what I've read and things that I've seen. Owen Wilson was cast as the lookalike back when this was still like a Prince and the Pauper type of story. And there apparently is a large scene in the Sweatbox in which Owen Wilson is fired. There's apparently many scenes in which Sting becomes really, really overwhelmed and sort of lets the production crew have it. I have not. This is all alleged. I've actually not seen the full documentary ever, but it did continuously change a lot. But one thing that did not change, and I'm so happy it didn't, is Eartha Kitt as Yzma.
That's true. She's perfection in this movie.
Yes.
So let's dig into that a little bit. The history we briefly we just scraped the surface of all the iterations of the movie. It started development way back in 1994. As you said, it was originally called Kingdom of the Sun, with music by Sting, and it was originally going to be directed by Roger Allers, who was fresh off The Lion King, as you said already as well. And as the movie was in development, both Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame were both released also as epic musicals, but both had very underwhelming box office performances. So on top of that, an early screening of Kingdom of the Sun was overwhelmingly rejected by the producers at the time, Thomas Schumacher and Peter Schneider. They basically demanded that they fully start over, like throw this movie in the garbage and make a new movie because it was not making the cut. So then the team brought in Mark Dindal to help direct and add some more comedy to the story. And as production pushed on, it became very clear that there were some creative differences and the timeline was getting way off, and it was threatening the year 2000 release. So it was almost just not going to be made at all in time, which made them, again, want to throw the whole production right in the trash.
Well, if they'd have thrown it in the trash, it would have had good company, right, Patrick?
Wow. That's the first of many, I feel like, times you're going to call me garbage here on this podcast.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it is. I mean, you always sort of think specifically with like a Disney film, right? Like when you do see which I've not seen the Sweatbox documentary, but a lot of times when you do watch these documentaries, very rarely do you see like tension or like tense moments. It always kind of seems like everybody's on the same page, and you sort of believe that's what goes along with the concept of Disney magic, right? It's really funny to me that this movie is so enjoyable. It's so funny. It's so well animated, and it had all these problems in the beginning, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, in fact, when they brought on Mark Dindal, I believe he and Allers just kind of butted heads a little bit. So apparently the producers fully, when they were trying to come up with a new concept for the movie, they split the production crew in half, with Camp Allers and Camp Dindal each tasked with pitching their idea for a movie. And Allers pitched the original idea with the musical with a few alterations, and Dindal pitched basically an entire new movie, removing all of the music and turning it into a full-on comedy, which the producers responded well to. Allers stepped down and Dindal took over full control of the film. I mean, talk about llama drama.
Right, that is Llama Drama. They should have named the documentary Llama Drama.
There you go.
Sting's wife, if you are listening,
yeah,
that was a mistake.
I'm determined to make Llama Drama happen, obviously. So, as you said earlier, Owen Wilson's character, Owen Wilson was basically fired from the movie. His character was fully changed, and he was replaced by John Goodman. And
that's right.
That's right. And late-night comedy writer David Reynolds was brought on. So Sting, though annoyed that the movie kept changing, stayed on with the project until he gets a phone call informing him that the movie is no longer a musical, but they will use one song at the beginning, and the rest of his songs will be just end credit songs, and most of the songs will be eliminated altogether. I would have given any amount of money to have been listening in on that phone call.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, you've spent, because at this point it had been in development for years. He's obviously written so many songs that didn't even make like a first cut, a second cut, right? So then he finally has this sort of collection of music that he truly thinks is going to make it in, and then they're like, nah.
I want to believe, yeah, in my head, I believe it was like they gave that job to an assistant to be like, hey, real quick, before you leave the office today, can you just call Sting and tell him that we're not using his music anymore?
That's exactly what happened. Poor Alicia, poor intern Alicia.
Sorry, Alicia, this is your job now.
Right.
Oh dear. But against all odds, Sting stayed on with the movie, and he did actually write the songs, and he allowed them to use it, even though he had every right to be like, no, bye, we're done here.
Right. And so they actually they asked Sting to sing the opening number, and he said that he could not sing it. He felt as though he was too old, and so Disney went and got Tom Jones, who is 11 years older than Sting,
good
to sing the song. Right.
Yeah, did Sting do Disney wrong at some point? And they were like, let's make Sting's life the worst it's ever been.
Well, I have to say, yeah, you would think, but I have to say that I mean, we do know that not all films go through like a really difficult production cycle like this one did, and so I imagine that at that point they probably were all sick of one another, right?
Yes.
Like I bet even David Spade and Eartha Kitt have beef.
Well, he didn't come back for The Emperor's New School, so maybe.
That's right. He sure didn't.
Oh, dear. So by February 2000, the film was finally fully underway with a new title, The Emperor's New Groove, and a new release date of December 15th, 2000. So they basically made a movie in 8 months.
Yeah, they did.
8 months and 10 years, I guess.
but it's such a good finished product, though. It was all worth it, for me at least. For me,
there you go.
Their suffering, it was worth it for me to see this movie.
Fantastic. So when it was released, I would say it did okay in the box office. It was fourth in the box office for its opening weekend, behind some pretty big hits that year. This is going to date all of us. What Women Want was number one, I think. Dude, Where's My Car was number two, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas was number three.
It's funny how, like, because it's sort of like The Emperor's New Groove has elements of all of those films. Why would it not have been number one?
Specifically, Dude, Where's My Car?
Specifically, Dude, Where's My Car?
Dude, Where's My New Title? That's what I want to call it.
Dude, Where's My Groove?
It was also competing with 102 Dalmatians at the time, which came out over Thanksgiving weekend and was still doing pretty well. So it had some competition, which I think probably it got lost in the middle of all of those films being released at the exact same time.
102 Dalmatians is the live-action sequel with Glenn Close?
It is.
I have never seen that one.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's not 101 Dalmatians. That movie is perfection, but it's pretty good.
I will have to watch it.
Mm-hmm. You have homework to do now. So most critics, however, did like it, praising it for the new voice it was sort of bringing to Disney. And one of the review read, "The Emperor's New Groove isn't the most ambitious animated film, but its brisk pace, fresh characters, and big laughs make for a great time for the whole family." And then on the flip side, some critics wanted to compare it to Tarzan, which had come out about a year earlier and were super disappointed in the animation. But Rotten Tomatoes right now currently has it at 85%, which is not bad.
Yes, I saw that. There are also a lot of critics that claimed that this was the best film in the post-Disney Renaissance era, and also by far the most comedic.
Oh, for sure. This is maybe one of the funniest movies I can think of a Disney animated film.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you and I were, it was funny because when you and I were watching it on Disney Group Watch and texting one another the whole time, every time that there would be like a really funny sequence, one of us would message, "This has to be the funniest sequence in Disney animation history." And then literally 45 seconds later, we'd go, no, this one. This is the funniest sequence in Disney animation history. It really is just nonstop laughs.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then quickly before we start talking about the cast and crew, I will say The Emperor's New Groove had a budget of about $100 million, and it only made about $10 million domestically opening weekend. And overall, it has made about $170 million worldwide. So not great numbers. It's a very mixed movie in that it got a lot of great reviews, but didn't get a lot of response or money in return.
Yeah, that's right. I also read somewhere too that this was one of Disney's best-selling home video films. Like as far as I guess like VHS, DVD. I don't even know if there was in 2000. Were we buying DVDs?
We must have been.
I guess so. But yeah, and I kind of remember that being the case too. I feel like I was one of my only friends that actually went and saw this in theaters because I talked about it nonstop. And then when it came out on video, I remember everybody had it on video. And so that does make sense to me that it did far better in video sales than ticket sales.
Yeah, for sure. I'll even say when I was posting about that we were recording this episode about The Emperor's New Groove, a lot of the response that I got on Instagram was, that is my absolute favorite movie, or I've never seen this movie before. It's one of the two.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of times when people do tell me it's their favorite, they talk about how underrated it is. And I could not agree more. I don't understand why this movie doesn't get more attention and more representation.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, it did get a sequel, and it also got a TV show. It was one of the first Disney movies to get a TV show.
That's true. Have you seen the TV show?
I did watch a couple episodes of it. It's not... It didn't do for me what the movie did for me. It's pretty funny, for sure, but I don't like it as much as the movie.
Yeah, there's this weird thing they do with the animated series off of films where they do this weird like modernized version of the film where like all of a sudden occasionally like Cusco will have a cell phone, and I'm like, we know that didn't happen. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you remember the show Timon and Pumbaa, and it would literally show like one of them like using a toilet or something, and it's like we know this isn't. I don't know why they do that. It's one of my least favorite things that they do when they take these films and make them animated series.
Yeah, it's like the jig is up, everybody. We know that this isn't, I don't know, part of the deal. Or do you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that all being said, let's get into the creative crew, and then we can talk about the movie a little bit and the cast and our feelings about it. I think everyone knows how we feel about it already, but we'll just talk about it some more because it's our show. We can do what we want. So let's dig in. The movie, as we said before, was directed by Mark Dindal, who hadn't directed and still hasn't directed very much. He directed this, obviously, and also Cats Don't Dance and Chicken Little. He was more known in animation. He worked on the animation team for The Black Cauldron, The Fox and the Hound, Mickey's Christmas Carol, The Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, The Little Mermaid, and The Rescuers Down Under. Now, Mark Dindal also has a story by credit, along with Chris Williams, who has writing credits for Bolt, Moana, Kronk's New Groove, Mulan, Brother Bear, and The Emperor's Got Game, which is the Emperor's New Groove video game. He also directed Bolt and Big Hero 6, and he co-directed Moana, and, fun fact, he is the voice of Oaken in the Frozen franchise.
I absolutely played The Emperor's Got Game.
Another terrible title for this franchise. Moving on, the screenplay is actually by David Reynolds, who was a Late Night with Conan O'Brien staff writer. He also has credits for Mulan, Saturday Night Live, Fantasia 2000, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, The Jungle Book 2, Finding Nemo, Kronk's New Groove. And then we also have additional story material credits by Stephen J. Anderson, Don Hall, John Norton, Doug Frankel, Mark Kennedy, and Mark Walton. A lot of dudes. That's a lot of dudes in the writing room.
That's too many dudes.
Too many dudes. And then rightfully noted within the credits, we have Roger Allers and Matthew Jacobs to credit for the original concept of the film, even though that was thrown directly into the garbage can.
At least you had company.
There it is. There's another one. Then we should talk about the music a little bit. So we have composer John Debney. Now, John Debney, you may not know his name, but you've definitely heard his music before. A short list of his music compositions: Fame, the TV series, Jetsons, the movie, Hocus Pocus, Little Giants, House Guest, Doctor Who, I Know What You Did Last Summer, strangely, Heartbreakers, Elf, Sin City, Chicken Little, Evan Almighty, Iron Man 2, The Jungle Book, The Greatest Showman, Jingle Jangle, and Mighty Ducks Game Changers, the new TV show.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's quite an extensive list of movies that you absolutely know the music to.
Yeah, it totally is. And like some of those movies were good.
Wow. You're talking about Heartbreakers, right?
Yes.
And then, as we mentioned before, we have music and lyrics by Sting, but also David Hartley. Sting, of course, is known for being Sting, basically. And David Hartley is more so known as a musician and has collaborated with Sting a lot, which is, I imagine, why Sting brought him on board to help for this film. But he's also contributed significantly as a musician for many, many movies and TV shows, mostly as a pianist. A few examples of his work can be heard in Chicago, the movie, The Nanny Diaries, The Golden Compass, Twilight, How to Train Your Dragon, Maleficent, Trolls, Mary Poppins Returns, Rocket Man, one of Kale's favorite movies, Judy, and Jingle Jangle.
Yes, I love Rocket Man, but there are a lot of really good movies in that list. Chicago,
Mary Poppins Returns, that's pretty cool.
The Nanny Diaries.
Scarlett Johansson's biggest hit.
Right.
Oh dear. Okay, so should we move on to the cast?
Yes.
Why ever not? So it's not a huge cast, right? There's only about like 6 main characters, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, it's not at all. And you want to know, it's funny because I don't think I realized what a small cast it was until we started doing this. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that there are very few characters. And I almost wonder, was that a production budget thing? Because at this point they maybe were like, look, we've spent so much money on this for like a decade. You guys need to get it together for $50. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's kind of how this podcast goes too.
Is that why I'm paying you today?
Yes, exactly. So let's start in on the cast. Kale, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So we have David Spade voicing Emperor Kuzco.
David Spade, indeed. What are your thoughts on David Spade?
So I like David Spade. I think he does a really good job of voicing this character that sort of, thinks he's a little bit cooler than he really is, which is also my favorite character to play just on a, on a Monday. And yeah, I think that it works really, really well.
Yeah, I was never a huge David Spade fan before, but I think he does a really good job voicing this character for whatever reason. And I think it had to be David Spade. You know what I mean? I can't imagine anyone else doing what he did for this character.
Oh, absolutely. And it's even to the point where like if I see David Spade in something and hear his voice, I immediately think of Kuzco.
Whereas a lot of people, we should go through his credits a little bit, will mostly remember David Spade from Saturday Night Live. He was on that show for a very long time. Also, he was in Tommy Boy, Joe Dirt, the TV show Just Shoot Me, 8 Simple Rules. He also voiced Kuzco in Kronk's New Groove, but he did not come back for The Emperor's New School. He was also in Grown Ups, Rules of Engagement, and he is currently on the Netflix After Party.
Very nice. Go David Spade.
Go David Spade, indeed. Moving on, we have one of the coolest people who's ever been alive, John Goodman, voicing Pasha.
I agree when you say that he's one of the coolest people. I would love to like grab a beer with him.
Yeah, I feel like he would be such an interesting person to talk to. I can't ever get a grasp on who he is as a person, though, because I just know him as like this overwhelming character in so many things.
No, totally. Like there are people that you can like look at and you can say like, oh, that person's definitely grumpy in the morning. Like I don't know. It wouldn't shock me either way if he were like a morning person or like not a morning person. I would be like, of course. Like either way, I found out. But yeah, and he actually does a fantastic job in this movie, which is funny because he had not done a lot of voice acting prior to this, right?
Not a lot of voice work, but after this movie, he did a ton of voice work for Disney specifically, even.
Right.
So yeah, let's go through his credits a little bit. So John Goodman is a Disney legend. I think he's probably most well known for being America's dad, Dan Connor in Roseanne, now called The Connors. He was in Raising Arizona, Arachnophobia, King Ralph, The Babe, The Flintstones, The Big Lebowski, Coyote Ugly, one of my favorite movies, and then Monsters, Inc., Kronk's New Groove, Cars, The Emperor's New School, Monsters University, The Princess and the Frog, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and he'll be in the upcoming Monsters at Work for Disney+.
I'm so excited about Monsters at Work. I know that's not our main focus right now, but I'm so excited for that.
But going back to what you said, yeah, you're right. I think he does an excellent job voicing this character because there's something so warm about his voice in the character of Pasha that you root for him the entire movie.
No, absolutely. Like what you said about the warmth. There's something about even the first time that you really hear him speak, you know, when he's helping the old man out of the the sort of like broken rafter of the banner, like after, you know, throwing off the Emperor's Groove. There is just something there's so much heart there. Do you know what I mean? He does a really, really great job of that. Like you immediately know Pacha's character based off of that voice.
Yeah, that's a good point. You absolutely know who this character is as soon as he starts talking, and you sort of want him to be your dad and like tell you bedtime stories or something. There's something like huggable about the character of Pasha.
For sure. It makes you feel safe.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, who makes you feel unsafe is the character of Yzma, although one of my favorite Disney characters of all time, voiced by the amazing, the one and only Eartha Kitt.
Yes. I mean, this is a casting decision that probably I would consider the greatest casting decision of all time in any film ever made, ever.
Full stop.
There's something about, like, I don't necessarily even think Yzma favors Eartha Kitt, but there's something about Eartha Kitt's voice that looks like it would absolutely belong to Yzma. It's so rich. There's so much character there. The comedic timing of her voicing this character, just absolutely insane. This really is the highlight of the film. Eartha Kitt voicing the villainous Yzma.
Perfection. There's something interesting about the character of Yzma. She reminds me of like what Ursula's cousin would be like or something. She's like the deflated version of Ursula and the funnier version of Ursula.
100%, because it's sort of, you know, she has this diabolical brain that's capable of absolute devastation, but the execution is what's really, really bad. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's also one of the few times where we have a villain that isn't much worse than the main character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like neither one of them are even really better than the other. It's just we're supposed to root for Kuzco because he's funny. And so,
yeah. But you sort of do root for Yzma in the sense that you just want to see more of her. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily want her to win, but you want to see her keep trying to win.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, even the scene in the beginning where she's attempting to poison him, mm-hmm. You're wanting him to get poisoned. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not wanting him to take a sip of the drink. Like when Kronk's looking at her and he's like, "What is she saying?" You're like, "She's saying hit him on the head." You know.
She's literally the best. So we should talk about Eartha Kitt a little bit. Some of her credits. She is, of course, a songstress and a seductress, I would call her, who I believe, I believe, Kale, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you know, I think she was the very first person ever to record the song Santa Baby.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Yes, she was.
Okay, which is a smidge ironic. I don't mean to get dark here, but she passed away on Christmas Day in 2008.
Yes, and I we don't have to delve into this too much here, but I do have to say Eartha Kitt really led a quite incredible life. At one point, you know, she was sort of blacklisted from Hollywood and even entertainment in New York City, and had to move to Europe to sort of find any sort of work. Her life is definitely worth a Google for sure.
Absolutely. She, as we said, she was a recording artist, a huge Broadway star, but some of what you're alluding to, she was a huge social activist, which made a lot of people upset with her because she was so vocal in her activism. She supported education. She was heavily involved in anti-war efforts, and she was a huge LGBTQ plus activist, fully supporting marriage equality before it was a hot button issue. She sort of like paved the way for the heterosexual community to support the gay community.
Oh, absolutely. She was, I mean, she was even, I think from my understanding, before we were even a lot of times comfortable saying it out loud ourselves, I think she was the one that was kind of telling us like, no, this is okay. You should have the rights everybody else has. And, you know, she was such an activist for, you know, better education and sort of with inner city youth. And I think that was one reason why she was considered so controversial. But her life, it really was incredible. Just a true redemption story if there ever were one.
Yeah, she was an amazing woman. I will say, for me, Eartha Kitt was also the best Catwoman that has ever been in the Batman TV series in the 60s.
Oh, because was Eartha Kitt Catwoman, or is Catwoman Eartha Kitt? Let's be honest. Eartha Kitt lived her life as Catwoman.
She did indeed. And she also, it's interesting, she really loved doing this movie as well, and she loved playing Yzma. In fact, she came back, of course, to do Kronk's New Groove, and then she came back into the TV show as well, The Emperor's New School, which she absolutely did not need to do, but she wanted to do it.
Yeah, she's definitely, Eartha Kitt as Yzma is definitely the highlight of this film.
Yeah, it's an iconic performance, I feel like. And speaking of, moving on, we have Patrick Warburton playing Kronk. Iconic as well.
Also iconic. Yes. So good. So I know a sort of fun fact about him voicing the role of Kronk.
Okay.
So him recording that sort of song when he's carrying the body, so that could be used. Disney actually had to hire someone to listen to him doing that and put it to sheet music, and then also have it copyrighted just so it could be used in the film, so that Patrick Warburton couldn't come back later on and be like, that's my original composition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
super fun. Yeah, he improvised that entire, where he sort of like makes up his own theme song when he's sneaking around.
Yes.
It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, you're right. Disney had to basically sign that over to themselves and say, you can't use this, Patrick Warburton, this is ours now.
They did. That's true.
Amazing. And I believe this character was the first time he had ever done voiceover work for an animated movie, which is super interesting.
Yeah, I believe that's true as well. And it's always so like I almost feel like I'm sitting on a secret, which I know I'm not, because I know most diehard Disney people know that this is true. But when you're ever in the queue for Soren and he comes on to give you the instructions, I always want to scream, "Okay, Kronk," but I never do, because I feel like I'd be revealing this awesome secret that only I know when everybody knows it.
Everybody and their mother knows it. Yeah, he's the safety guy in the pre-flight show for Soren in both Disney parks, I believe. Isn't that right?
I would not know about Disneyland, actually.
I can't remember for the life of me if he's in that one, but he's for sure in the Disney World one. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people screaming at us right now from their cars saying, yes, he's in the Disneyland one as well. But also, Patrick Warburton has been in just about everything, guest starring on almost every single TV show out there, from Mad About You to Murphy Brown to Designing Women to Ellen to Seinfeld. He was in Scream 3. He voiced, I didn't know this, he voiced Buzz Lightyear for the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and he played the Tick in the TV show The Tick. He was in Home on the Range, Kronk's New Groove, Less Than Perfect, Family Guy, Kim Possible, B-Movie, The Emperor's New School, Rules of Engagement, a series of unfortunate events, and then, as we already said, of course, the pre-flight show for Soren.
Yes. He also was really great in a series of unfortunate events. Yeah,
Patrick Warburton as Kronk, you and I were talking about this, and even though this is the first time he did voiceover work for an animated movie, it was absolutely written for Patrick Warburton to do this character. I mean, it could not have been anybody else.
Well, and yeah, and you know, I kind of feel that way with a lot of the cast, but specifically him, you're correct. But even I feel like with the rough production experience that this movie went through, I think that at some point they probably had to realize we have to play to the people that we have that are still willing to do this film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, because I mean, if you really think about it, Yzma's body movement and you know, it's very Eartha Kitt. You know, Kuzco is very David Spade. John Goodman is very Pacha. And so I do feel as though Patrick Warburton and Kronk, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it's again like you were saying about Eartha Kitt and Catwoman. It's like, where does one end and the other begins? Like, it's the same person.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, it's not easy to play dumb. I feel like when you're doing a movie or even on stage, it's one of those things that everyone's like, oh, anyone could have played that. But to play dumb and have it actually be funny is a real art form, and he does it so perfectly.
Absolutely, because there's just such an innocence to it, right? It's never blatant dumbness. It's always Kronk being very, very genuine, probably the most genuine character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, these sort of little moments of, spinach puffs, or him forgetting to, which cup that he had put the poison into, and the expressions on his face, and the sort of, it's all very, very real.
Yeah. Yeah, the character of Kronk is interesting in that he's not even really a villain. He just happens to work for a villain.
Right. That's absolutely true. And I struggle with calling her a villain sometimes.
I mean, she has the motivation of a villain, right? Like, that's kind of the only thing that makes her a villain, but it's because she's so funny. The two of them together are so funny that you're right. It's almost like, I kind of want you to win because I want to see what you do when you win.
Well, yeah, and because Cusco, he's no better than she is. I mean, yeah, she's like, the whole point of her poisoning him, right, is to try and kill him so she can be
right, yeah.
the empress. But at the very same time, Cusco almost killed an old man in the beginning by having him thrown out the window.
True.
And so it's,
what an onion this movie is, really. We're just pulling the layers off.
This movie has so many layers. It is insane.
Yeah, for sure. Well, rounding out the cast, so that's kind of the main cast, the four of them. But then we also have the delightful Wendy Malick. How'd they get her? I don't know. Playing Pasha's wife, Chicha.
Yes. So it's appropriate that she would play the character of the wife of John Goodman's character, because she also, to me, has a voice that is just very, very recognizable, very soothing. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It sounds like every friend's mom that you had that you did like. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's also there's something warm about her voice as well.
Very much so.
So if you don't know who Wendy Malick is, you would recognize her from American Housewife. She also does voice work for BoJack Horseman, which is hilarious. She was in The Ranch, Hot in Cleveland, Confessions of a Shopaholic, The Emperor's New School, and she was in Just Shoot Me with David Spade.
Yes, she was absolutely hilarious and Hot in Cleveland. She was actually my favorite.
Yeah, she's a super funny, super talented woman. And then playing the two kids, two kind of unknowns. I don't know where they found these kids because they never really did anything after this. But we have Kelly Ann Kelso playing Shaka, and then Eli Russell Linnitz playing Tipo. But a fun fact about Eli is he also voiced Flounder in the Kingdom Hearts game.
Really?
Yeah, I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
I will say the two kids, not in the movie very much, and obviously voiced by people who were not known at all, but they are some hilarious characters who I would like to see like some Disney short spin-offs with.
Oh, absolutely. If they, like, that's to me, that's kind of how the Emperor's New School should have gone. Maybe focused a lot on the kids and Pacha's family, and less so characters that we had never met. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like that was sort of what it lacked, was familiarity. But the kids are hysterical.
Yeah, the whole family unit is super funny, and they do sort of work as a unit. You sort of want them to be your family because there's these moments within the movie that the husband and the wife just sort of can read each other's minds almost basically, and they're on each other's side the entire time. It's almost romantic to see those two characters.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, even the first scene where you see, Pacha come home after, sort of getting shut down by Cusco, and even when she's sort of, angrily pregnant and having the conversation with him about, well, that's not right. You need to march back up there. It's still, there's something super supportive and sweet about it,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And a fun fact about that character of Chicha is that she, I believe, is the very first and one of the only women in Disney animated history to be pregnant on screen.
Yes, yes, that we know of.
Who was visibly pregnant, I should say.
Yes, visibly pregnant. That's true. And really a beautiful pregnant woman.
There you go. I like it. Yeah, she they did animate her with that sort of like motherly glow. You know what I mean?
They absolutely did, yes.
Great character. So yeah, basically that's the entire cast. There are definitely like some minor characters like the old man and some villagers, but mostly those are the only actors who are credited really for The Emperor's New Groove, which kind of makes it a tight little movie because you're not invested in too many characters. You just need to focus on the main four and then the family unit as well.
I think it's perfect. I like the small cast. I think everybody cast in this film was perfect. It always feels so nostalgic watching it and listening to them.
Yeah, for sure. Something interesting though that you and I were chatting about when we were watching this movie on Disney Plus, and I still don't know where I sit on this conversation in that. So the story of The Emperor's New Groove is set in South America. Basically, it's in an Incan temple, basically that the emperor is living in, and yet all of the actors, save for Eartha Kitt, are white, right?
Yes, that's correct. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, it's funny too because even you can sort of see that this family, Pacha and his wife, and the children specifically, you know, they very much look fitting to that Incan civilization during that time period. It's really Cusco, who to me is the standout of not really having any ethnicity whatsoever. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's essentially a white guy with a bob haircut and bangs. Is sort of what he looks like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Cusco and Kronk both though are very like
Kronk, absolutely, yes.
So yeah, I can't really decide if this is problematic or not. But it almost seems to me that this movie didn't in any way need to be set in South America.
I would have to agree with that totally. I think that had it, I mean, I do think that it does somewhat become problematic when you do give it a definite setting and then you don't follow any of the cultural aspects of that setting, right? But to your point, I don't think that it was necessary that the movie had to take place there, if that makes sense. You know, I think that was a choice that was made. You know, it probably should have been followed a little more closely. Do I think that the story would still be important or just as funny if it were set, you know, somewhere else? Absolutely.
Yeah. All that being said, though, they did pay pretty great detail to the animation in that it is very much Incan art that they are putting on the screen for us.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. The patterns on clothing and the architecture and stuff like that. It you know, and it's funny because you never really, I mean, specifically the critics when this film came out, you know, they talked about how the animation style, it wasn't the greatest. I have to argue that I think it's very beautiful. You know, a lot of the patterns used, a lot of like the screen transitions where they use sort of, you know, there's the sequence in which they're racing back to the palace. And there's all these sort of like designs and shapes and different techniques that they use to show them running. I actually think that it's very beautiful. You know, it's quite colorful. You know, Yzma's outfits. I love the fact that the palace in general, there's absolutely no plausible design structure to it because at any point there's a ledge that someone falls off of, regardless of what room they're in. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a hazard. They definitely did not have it inspected.
That's for sure. That's kind of there's almost like a comparison that can be made with the temple and the movie itself in that it's so random, right? Like there's a plot for sure, but at any moment there's just a random joke that happens for absolutely no reason, and that's sort of why it's so funny to me.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, the palace is the same way. Like, yeah, this is a place to keep the emperor safe, but at any point he could fall off this ledge and into a pit of and out the nostril of the, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we do need to talk about how funny some of these sequences are and which one may be your favorite and maybe my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's the opening sequence, which is great. You know, him sort of doing this very vague dance number. I wouldn't really call it dancing, to Tom Jones singing,
Mm-hmm.
Which is cute, like a good opener, right?
Yeah.
So then there's the next, like, I would say comedic sequence is Yzma having the dinner party where she's going to try and poison him, and which ends with Kronk accidentally turning him into a llama, and then sort of trying to dispose of him, and then losing him, which in itself is a hilarious sequence of events, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the sequence of them sort of Cusco and Pacha sort of getting lost in the woods, and then running into this bed of tigers or panthers, I suppose.
The jaguars.
And then just hilarity ensues. A ton of stuff happens. At one point, the llama's mouth is filled with bats, which is the most random idea that I've ever heard in my whole life. And then we go from that to this whole sequence where they're at Mudga's meat hut. And there's just the most brilliant sort of little one-liners and these moments of Cusco and Yzma not seeing one another, and the menu's up and the menu's down, and then them in this revolving door while Kronk is cooking all of a sudden. But by far the funniest one to me has to be when Yzma goes to Pacha's family's house, and there's the whole sequence of them trying to not let Yzma know that they're on their way to the palace, and the family keeping Yzma in the closet. It's by far the funniest sequence of this whole movie to me. Probably the funniest sequence in a Disney film. Just the amount of humor that's very blatant, and then the amount of intelligent humor that happens with, tell us where the talking llama is, and we'll burn your house to the ground. Well, don't you mean tell us where the talking llama is, and we'll burn your house to the ground. Well, which is it? That sounds like a pretty crucial conjunction. I mean, that's my favorite sequence of that whole film, probably.
Yeah, for sure. That is some intelligent humor right there. For me, I think it's the diner scene that you were talking about a little bit. There is some comic timing that's happening there, both vocally and visually, that is on par with maybe the funniest Broadway show you've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's a very like a noises off situation.
It is. It's very Broadway showish, because it's the, a character gets up and goes to the bathroom, and then the other character overhears and has to tell the character, no, but you don't understand. They're out there. And I mean, it almost makes me wonder if this was done in a similar way to like Alice in Wonderland, where there were different departments that were assigned different sort of sequences to animate and kind of control, because it really is hysterical.
Yeah, kind of like you were saying, there is something very sketch comedy about it, which makes sense because David Reynolds used to write for Saturday Night Live and for Conan O'Brien, and then David Spade is from Saturday Night Live as well. And so it makes total sense that it feels that way. It feels like chunks of very funny sketches that make a collective movie.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And what's funny though is like when you think of Eartha Kitt, and I mean, and Eartha Kitt obviously had very funny moments prior to Emperor's New Groove. She was quite a comedic lady, but it's funny to me how well her sense of humor meshed in. I mean, because if you think about two like people that couldn't have more different comedic styles, David Spade and Eartha Kitt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just goes so well together.
Yeah, there is something really magical about this cast in that, kind of what you were saying. There's no reason why these four actors would be in a room together. Like, there's no reason.
Ever. Right. Absolutely ever. I have to say, my favorite probably joke in this entire movie is the scene where Yzma is getting ready to lift up her dress to reveal a dagger, but they don't understand that it's a dagger, and them going, no, please, no, and it that to me is the greatest. That 20 seconds is the greatest 20 seconds of any Disney film.
Yeah,
ever.
there's something we were talking about this before. There's something almost dangerous about some of the comedy in that, like that scene specifically you're just talking about, that they almost go to this place where you're like, there's not a chance this would ever have made a Disney movie, and yet they almost go there. They almost walk that line, and it sort of feels like the producers or whoever was supposed to have eyes in this movie didn't watch it at all and let all these jokes happen, which thank goodness.
No, it absolutely does feel that way, right? Like, you know, when you would do like a paper in school that was not over the topic that it was supposed to be, but you made like a 90 and you were like, they did not read this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. They're trying to get something by. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly how this movie does kind of feel. Like it flew under the radar so much because people were like, look, it's finally getting done. We don't even care what it looks like at this point. Just put it on the screen.
Yeah, there's a lot of almost inappropriateness about the movie, but it's not though. It's not at all inappropriate. It just seems that way, and it's making your mind go to the inappropriate place where they're not actually going there. Do you know what I mean? They're like leading you to the inappropriate water, but they're not taking you there. You're going there yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It makes it leaves you feeling like the one in the wrong because
yes.
it never truly. Yeah. So should we talk about, is Emperor Kuzco gay?
$1 million question. I don't know. You had asked me this before and I was like 100% yes. And now watching it back, I don't know that I want him to be gay because I don't want him in my party. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so first of all, you texted me throughout the entire movie telling me that I was Emperor Kuzco, which I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to feel. But I think that it's an interesting concept. I will say that I think the character of Kuzco, even by the end of the movie, having it changed so much, right? I do think that there's always going to be a very selfish person there, you know, whether it, you know, he's still able to sort of, you know, really enjoy people and love people. And it's not always about himself anymore. I feel like he just blatantly is too conceited to be in a relationship with anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if he himself knows what he would be attracted to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's only attracted to himself.
You raise an interesting point in that this is one of the few Disney movies where the main character is pretty unlikable. You know what I mean? Like the character that the movie is even named after is unlikable.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, while he's obviously, you know, it's a very funny character, you can't help but to like him immediately. There is this sort of, you know, I'm not supposed to be rooting for him, but even you know, when him and Pacha sort of begin this journey, it's sort of like you kind of almost think that Pacha is like the buzzkill, even though he's just trying to be a good person. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's really interesting how, but also the growth that he has. Do you know what I mean? The beauty of this, the true beauty about this film is how everything about it is given to you at face value, right? We know nothing about Kuzco's past. We know nothing about his parents, his family. We're just introduced to him right away, and we know that he's sort of arrogant, right? And then from there, we just accept it, which I think is awesome. and then by the end of the movie, you know, we see that he's changed, and he didn't kick his friend out of his house so that he could build his beach house. He did it to that friend's neighbors, which is progress. Not the best, but
yeah, baby steps for sure.
Yeah.
Well, now is usually the time in the episode where we discover whether or not we're fans of this movie. But I think it's safe to say, Kale, that we are both enormous fans of The Emperor's New Groove.
Enormous fans of The Emperor's New Groove, including the title.
I will accept the title of The Emperor's New Groove because the movie is so good.
Perfect. What if we do find out that, like, in another country it was released as llama drama, and there it made back more of its budget?
Yeah, it's the only reason it didn't make any money is because of the title, for sure.
Okay.
But this has been a fun conversation. There's some things that you pointed out in the movie that I had sort of forgotten about, and specifically in the comedy and how smart the comedy actually is. Because as we were saying before about Patrick Warburton, it's pretty hard to play stupid, and this comedy is almost stupid comedy, but it's so clever that it's hard to do. It's hard to write a movie like this, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I imagine, I mean, I would like to think at least that because this production was really put through it in the beginning, that at some point, I would like to say that they just started to finally feel good, and maybe the laughs and the comedy just sort of started to pour out, out of a place of, it has to happen or I'm going to go crazy, And so, which I'm glad, if that's what happened, I'm glad, because I truly think this is a true gem of a film.
It had to be good because they were under such duress to make it a good movie.
Right.
Well, as per usual, Tweedledees, we do want to know what you think of The Emperor's New Groove. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. Let us know what your feelings are. If it's one of your favorite movies, why is it your favorite movie? If you don't like it, do not tell us because we don't want to know about it. No, just kidding. We do want to know why. You can always let us know on all of the social medias at GDTD Podcast, or you can leave us an email or a voice memo at info@gazedothed.com. Kale, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking about this hidden gem, I think, of a comedic Disney movie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm serious. I've looked forward to this all week. I'm so glad I got to do this. I'm so glad we got to discuss my favorite Disney film besides Little Mermaid. But,
well, fun fact, I'm actually going to edit you completely out of this episode, so no one will ever know.
Oh, cool. Yes. I also want to say that to JT from the Disney Buzz, I thoroughly enjoyed that episode last week with the DuckTales movie, Take Two.
Yeah, he has... If you want to talk to somebody, I have a conversation with somebody who just has an extensive amount of Disney knowledge. JT and Melanie from the Disney Buzz are your people.
And also, I hope Adam is getting moved safely, and I'm so glad that I got to stand in for him this week, and I'm even more glad that he didn't ask me to help him move.
He did ask me, and I told him, no, I'm not going to help you move.
No. I bet. Oh, boy.
No, in reality, yeah, thank you, JT, for co-hosting last week, and thank you, Kale, for coming on the show this week. Next week, we're both going to be gone, Adam and I, but we do have a Walt Quisney episode to share with all of you. We're very excited about it. We love doing Walt Quisney. But thanks again, Kale. If people want to send you hateful comments, where can they find you on social media?
I'm Marcophone. I'm just kidding. No, you can, if you want to send me hateful comments, you can send them to me on Instagram at KaleEnglish89 or at the Steamboat Willies.
Thank you so much. You can follow and stalk Kale on both of those, and Mark and Roger also on at the Steamboat Willies. Hey, Kale.
Hey, Patrick.
Assuming anybody is still listening to this episode, it is time, my friend, for some Quick D.
I love Quick D.
Did you ever think you'd be on Gaze Do the D talking about Quick D?
Never.
It's most people's dream, and you are here to actualize that dream, Kale, for everybody at home.
Yes, let's do it.
Well, this week we've decided to do Quick D Imagine Queering. For those of you who don't remember, because we haven't done it in a very long time, it is where we will pull a random attraction out of my Chewbacca mug and gay it up. Basically, we're gonna make Disney even gayer than it already is. Are you ready, Kale?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm reaching into Chewbacca. You are one of very few people who get to actually see this happen.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Okay, so now put that one back in and draw another one.
Are you sure? Because it's a real good one.
Okay, then do that one. Yeah, then do that one.
It's one that we have actually done together, and I think it might be the first time I've ever been inside of this attraction. It is Enchanted Tales with Belle.
Okay, so we're gonna gay it up.
Which I have to say to start with is already one of the gayest things that's ever happened at Disney.
It is, but you ready?
Oh, I'm always ready to gay things up.
So we're going to walk into Belle's cottage, okay, which just completed a $30,000 landscape overhaul in the front yard, right? You walk in on original hardwood floors, all right? Original antique Tiffany light fixtures. There's a humidifier, an oil diffuser, and a gigantic copy of September Vogue on the coffee table.
You're literally describing my basement right now. I have an oil diffuser on right now, pumping out Disney scents into the basement.
Perfect. So now we're going to go through the mirror that was given to Belle's papa, right? So he could visit Belle.
Yeah, I believe that's how the story goes.
Well, scratch that. He's no longer called Papa. He's now called Daddy.
Of course. I 100% knew you were going to say that.
Okay, so I know that this mirror in the ride, it's like floor to ceiling length, right?
Mm-hmm.
It already done get gayer than that. We'll leave that we'll leave that alone. Okay,
a floor length mirror in a gay house is like water in anybody else's house,
right? Okay, so you're going to go through that mirror, but instead of walking through the mirror, we're just gonna borderline run, but not like running to where like your heart rate is up. It's just that very fast gay walk through the mirror. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're going to get into the room with the wardrobe where you're assigned your role for Enchanted Tales with Belle.
Okay. It's a role-playing situation.
It's a role-playing situation. The wardrobe will assign us all different parts, and it is all based off of the members of the Village People.
Okay.
And you might ask why, MCA.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah. If you want to cut that one out, you're totally okay. So then we go through the hall. We're sitting down for story time. And instead of story time, we have brunch. And then, instead of story time, we have brunch. And then just when everybody else thinks that we're about to meet Princess Belle, we instead meet the Beast.
I like it. This is golden. This is perfect. No one needs to meet Belle. Yeah, we're going to meet the Beast instead, of course.
Belle is somewhere getting her roots done. And then, so the Beast is going to have to entertain us. And he's like, I don't know what to do with you boys. And we're like, we have an idea. Yeah.
And that's when the lights fully go out.
Yeah, it's when the lights go out and there's kind of this that kind of thing. And then even though we had brunch and like one glass of champagne, when we leave the ride, we're instantly hungover. And that's
Which is the end of any gay experience is hangover.
Yes.
That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. Continue the conversation after this episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast. Submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See ya real soon.